Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm going to walk you through the latest ESG report for Carrier Corporation. I'll talk an introduction. I'm really going into giving you a high level view of ESG. The objectives of this presentation is to kind of give you on the HVAC side what's going on and also the overall facilities management because the HVAC systems, water, waste all play a critical part in the overall facility management policies related to getting the buildings to net zero. Here's a brief bio about myself. I'm a CPA, CGA. I have over 35 years experience working with financial processes, automation, reporting, regulatory filings, and especially in areas like ESG reporting. If you look at Carrier, it's a fairly large corporation. If you look at its annual sales, it's pretty well geographically dispersed. And if you look at the number of employees and just at the overall share, and in most cases, houses have some sort of HVAC system. In a lot of cases, they're Carrier. But this gives you an idea of their market between HVAC, fire and security, and refrigeration, with basically a good 75% of their business is almost from basically HVAC. So this gives you an idea where they're targeting. Now, they're looking at their manufacturing operations. So that's what they have indirectly controlled because they do produce these units and they're producing these across geographies. So they are looking at their emissions, what they've done in terms of reduce them and where they're heading to in terms of the overall adjustments. Then they're looking at their overall supply chain, which also brings in the raw material, which they then have to fabricate into the machines. And then those machines are then distributed out either through their dealership network or accordingly to maybe their own team of experts that roll out these commercial industrial projects. People is a big issue with it. As you saw in the previous slide, they have 53,000 plus employees. So they're again doing the similar issues that I've seen consistent with the ESG reporting, which is basically making sure they have a solid social governance model around human employee HR policies related to health and safety, advancement, the the makeup of your employee workforce, skill gaps. They're making sure that they align that. They do employee surveys like most large companies do to align their HR policies. They're also looking at ethical sourcing in terms of human rights, where that raw material comes into their assembly. So they're looking at the traceability side, so they're putting people's first. This gives you an idea of where they are in terms of sustainability solutions. Now, the heat pump is one area that they're focusing on, and technology is getting better. There's still significant challenges there. We're also seeing inside the ductwork, they're looking at more energy efficiency of how that air is recycling, especially when you're dealing with large commercial, industrial, institutional buildings and condo buildings. You want to make sure you're utilizing the air properly and in the most efficient and effective way. They're heavily involved with the communities, as you can see from this. Um, like most companies, they're doing a lot of volunteer work within the communities that they support as part of the overall ESG report, social governance responsibility. Now, if you look at what they're trying to do now, as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is some pivoting around green products, and the heat pump is one area that they're focusing on as part of moving people off of oil or natural gas. And they're doing pilot projects in specific geographies, as you're seeing here: Oregon, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and Georgia. The two ones I would say that are most curious would be the Oklahoma, Wisconsin area, because the climate is kind of diverse a bit. Georgia tends to be the south, and Oregon's on the coast, so it's interesting how they've done it. So it gives them a bit wide range of climate change and climate issues they're facing. They're looking at, in terms of their overall water management, in terms of their production processes, as well as within your unit requires water, looking at that as part of the overall efficiency to make sure that they're getting the optimization of water utilization and managing of wastewater. This gives you an example what they're looking at their supply chain in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions. As you saw on the first slide, they're still targeted to a 42% reduction by 2030. Waste management, they're going through, most companies are, to recycle things from cardboard to the old units, whatever they're trying to do to make sure that they try to get to net zero going into the landfills. Brought up sustainable sourcing because this is critical whenever you're dealing typically with any sort of end product. You get a raw material, whether it's nickel, whether it's chromium or something like that, and you want to make sure those products are being sourced from countries that have good standards around biodiversity and around human rights practices, and they're continuing to do this. I've had other discussions with other presentations on this, but the reality is you're going to have to make sure you have the traceability side and the audit programs to make sure that they're in compliance. Product design, like anything else, you're looking at it more durable, but you're also looking at more energy efficient. So they continually do this. I suspect over time, at the time I did this presentation, that more and more carrier will try to move to scope 4, which is completely sustainable products, and you'll see that happen over time. Material and innovation, again, this is getting in terms of how best to, when they're working with their manufacturing process or the installation, how they best work with the material they need to the installation as part of, as also as the fabrication side of their units. Sustainable technology, this is really getting into looking at work in collaboration with Jones Lang and LaSalle, CBRE, other facility managers or property developers to work on efficiencies with the HVAC systems to come up with the next generation and look at how best to utilize power generation, whether we're plugging into solar panels, whether we're looking at connecting and doing loads for virtual power plants. It's all part of that. Now, like any sort of thing with facility management, the HVAC is part of the system, just like the electrical is, just like windows, other things within facilities. The problem that you're faced with any sort of facility management is old buildings, the cost to retrofit them can be cost prohibitive. Bear in mind as you're looking to net zero. Uh, More and more companies on the cement side, the metal fabrication, are trying to get to net zero materials. That's, in other words, zero emissions, and probably even further like that when we start to look in the whole environment, social governments. They'll try to look at that, but those materials significantly cost more right now until the economies of scales are brought up. There's challenges with that. Facilities themselves still need to have the ability to best manage water, temperature, and waste, and that's collaboration with, as I mentioned, with companies like Jones Lang and LaSalle, CBRE, and a few, Wakefield's another one, to work with them accordingly on the design of the layout of the HVAC systems as part of the overall management in the ESG footprint for a facility. There is also a lack of green building standards. That's really coming back to the building codes and just the certification around the green building standards. And then I will also say too is most of the focus on ESG has been on sustainability 1 and sustainability 2, more on the emission side. But we'll start to see more critical standards around facility management, so there's some consistency in how that's reported, just like we're seeing with the emissions on the capturing side. We'll see that with the biodiversity side. So they'll start peeling this back so we have some consistency that when you look at one HVAC company to another, it looks, the reporting structure is the same. Or if you're looking across industry just to see how you pair with your peers outside, you can get that consistency as well. They undertake external audits. I would suspect more and more you're going to start to see CPA firms or consulting firms set up to do specifically ESG audits. There's going to be more and more expansion of the ISO certification around ESG products and processes. And so you're going to start to see this. Internal audit in some companies will also play a vital role as well. Here's how you can get a hold of me. As I said, I'm an expert in any sort of reporting solutions, including ESG. I'm all about driving the best data solutions for clients across geography and industry. So you can reach out to me at any time.